The dress rustled softly as I stepped into the room. My father, once the strongest man I knew, sat facing the garden window, unaware that I was there, wearing the wedding gown he never thought he'd get to see. He turned slowly, and when his eyes landed on me, the world stopped. Rachel. He whispered, his voice already breaking. My beautiful girl. That was the moment we both knew it wouldn't be the aisle, it wouldn't be a grand church or a crowd of guests. It would be here in our home, in the living room where he once taught me to dance, standing on his toes, and this would be our last dance. My name is Rachel Carter, and this is the story of how I brought my wedding day to my dying father, because I refused to let cancer steal our moment. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever created a memory just in time? Let me know in the comments, because sometimes today is all we get. And if this story moves, you consider subscribing. We tell true stories like this every week. Growing up, I was always a daddy's girl. My mom left when I was 8. No long goodbyes, just a note on the counter and a half-packed suitcase. After that, it was just Dad and me. He was a firefighter, a captain actually. The kind of man who'd pull 3 people out of a burning building and still make it to your school recital. Smelling like smoke but smiling like he wouldn't want to be anywhere else. He made sure I never felt like I was missing out. Every Sunday morning we had pancakes at Millie's Diner. Every Friday night was pizza and old westerns. He didn't miss a birthday, a softball game, or a report card ceremony. He didn't just show up, he showed up big. As I got older and went off to nursing school, we kept the Sunday pancake tradition alive. I'd drive 2 hours back home just to sit across from him in our favorite booth and talk about everything and nothing. And when I met James, my fiancé. Now it was over one of those Sunday breakfasts that I first told Dad about him. He gave James the 3rd degree, of course, but after a few months he warmed up, especially the day James asked for permission to propose. Dad stared at him across that same diner table, then smiled and said, "You better take care of my little girl, or I'll come back from the grave and haunt you." It became a joke between them, but when Dad was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, the laughter stopped. I still remember the exact moment standing in a hospital hallway holding an IV bag when my phone buzzed. He never called me during shifts, ever. "Rachel," he said too casually, "I'm at the hospital, just running some tests. Maybe swing by after work." His voice was too calm, too light. I knew better. I dropped everything when I got there. He was sitting in imaging. Flannel shirt, jeans, looking like himself. But his eyes told me everything. The scan results confirmed our worst fear. The cancer had spread fast. The oncologist talked in clinical phrases: palliative care, comfort options, a few months if we were lucky. But the moment that shattered me was when Dad turned to me and said, "Guess I won't be walking you down the aisle, huh?" We hadn't even set a date yet. We were still picking venues, tasting cakes. But he knew, and so did I. In the weeks that followed, I moved back in with him. Took leave from the hospital. James came by every night bringing takeout and trying not to cry. My stepmom, Carol, she'd married Dad a few years ago, became the quiet rock holding everything together. We were doing our best, just not ready for what was coming. One evening, I sat alone at the kitchen table, flipping through bridal magazines that felt suddenly irrelevant. The wedding was still scheduled for October, 5 months away. But Dad's time, it was slipping through our fingers. That night, I opened my laptop and found an old photo, me at 15 standing next to Dad at my school dance. I was awkward in a borrowed dress. He was in a suit that didn't quite fit. We were laughing because he'd stepped on my hem 5 seconds before the picture was taken. "I'll always be there to dance with you," he'd said, "especially on your wedding day." The weight of that promise crushed me, so I made a decision. If Dad couldn't make it to my wedding, then I'd bring my wedding to him. Even just for a moment, even if it hurt, even if it broke me. He deserved to see me as a bride. He deserved to have that one last dance, and I was going to make it happen. No matter what, I didn't tell anyone about my plan at first, not even James. It felt like something sacred. Private, like if I said it out loud, the universe might take it away before I could pull it off, but I needed help. So the first person I called was Sarah, my best friend since high school, and the one who'd been helping with wedding prep since day one. "Are you thinking of canceling the wedding?" she asked after a beat of silence when I said we needed to talk. "No," I said quietly, "but I need to find my dress now. I need Dad to see it, while there's still time." There was another pause, and then her voice came through soft and sure. Then we're going dress shopping tomorrow. 2 days later, we stood in Bella's bridal boutique. The place was nearly empty when we walked in. Just the soft echo of classical music playing under the chandeliers and racks of ivory and lace. I must have tried on 6 or 7 dresses, each one more wrong than the last. One felt too heavy. Another looked perfect on the hanger, but like a stranger on me. I kept glancing at Sarah, waiting for that spark in her eyes. The look that would tell me we'd found it. It never came. Until the consultant wheeled in a final dress. "It just came in yesterday," she said. "Vintage inspired. Thought you might like to try something different." The second I stepped into it, something shifted. The lace was delicate, like the doilies my grandmother used to make. The neckline reminded me of my mom's wedding photos, the ones Dad kept in a worn album on the top shelf of his closet. And the moment I stepped in front of the mirror, Sarah covered her mouth. "That's the one," she whispered. "That's your dress." It wasn't flashy, it wasn't trendy, but it looked like me. Like the version of myself I wanted my dad to remember, I changed back into my clothes. Heart pounding, and went to pay the deposit, but the consultant. Elaine stopped me. "We'll expedite the alterations," she said gently. "No extra charge. Just bring a picture of you and your dad when you come in for your final fitting." That night I told James everything about the dress, the photos, the moment I wanted to create. And like he always does, he simply nodded and said, "Tell me what you need me to do." Melissa. Our wedding photographer agreed instantly when I called her. "Of course," she said, "no charge. I want you to have this one by one." People stepped in to help. My stepmom, Carol, became the stealth planner. The hospice nurse, Diane, agreed to shift my dad's meds to give him the best window of strength. Elaine from the bridal shop scheduled a special morning fitting. Just for me, Sarah rearranged her entire week to be there. James drove me to every appointment, and I focused on holding it together, because underneath the hope and the planning, the grief still clawed at me. I was creating a perfect memory because I knew what was coming. I was building something beautiful in the shadow of something devastating. And that contrast, that aching mix of joy and sorrow, was almost too much to bear. One night I sat at the kitchen table alone, staring at a checklist I'd written out in neat little boxes: dress photographer, makeup, meds, music. It read like a party plan, but I knew better. This wasn't just a dress reveal. It was a goodbye. James came over quietly, placed a small velvet box on the table. Inside were pearl earrings, his grandmother's. "Something borrowed," he said. "Thought maybe you'd want to wear them when you see your dad." I didn't say anything, just leaned into him. Let the tears fall. Let the weight of it all rest on someone else's shoulders for a little while. Because the truth was, I didn't know if this would work. I didn't know if my dad would be strong enough that day. I didn't know if I'd be strong enough. But I did know one thing: if I didn't try, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. The morning of the reveal came quieter than I expected. Not tense, not dramatic, just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before a storm. But this storm was made of memories. I woke up before the sun, staring at the ceiling in my old bedroom. The walls still had faint outlines where my posters used to hang. Outside, the garden Dad loved so much was already catching slivers of dawn light. James was downstairs packing the car. Carol texted. "He's having a good morning, talking, joking. Already had coffee. Today's the day." I sent one text to Melissa. "We're on our way." At the salon, Melissa was already there, camera in hand. Sarah met us at the door. She didn't say much, just hugged me tight. The hairdresser had cleared her schedule. My makeup artist came early. Everything felt like it was moving on a clock. I didn't control, but I didn't want to. I just wanted it to work. 2 hours later, I was zipped into the dress. The vintage lace hugged my shoulders like it had always belonged there. My reflection didn't feel like me, not the nurse, not the daughter, but something else. Something between who I used to be and who I was becoming. At Bella's bridal, Elaine handed me a small emergency kit: stain pen, extra pearls, tissues. Just in case I smiled. "Thank you for everything, just promise me one thing," she said. "When you walk into that room, don't hold back. Let him see all of it, your joy, your love. Give him that moment and let it be enough." The car ride to Dad's house was silent. James reached for my hand. I squeezed back. No words, no need. At the house, Carol met us at the side door. Her eyes brimmed with tears. "He's awake." In the living room, facing the garden, I told him, I'm expecting a delivery so he wouldn't be suspicious. Is it a good day? I whispered. One of his best this week. I walked into the guest room to change. James helped with the zipper. Then he stepped out without a word, leaving me alone with my thoughts. It hit me then, all at once. This was really happening. I was about to walk into the living room in my wedding dress, not to marry the man I love, but to say goodbye to the man who raised me. I stood at the threshold just out of view. My heart hammered. My dress rustled softly with every breath. I could hear the oxygen machine hum, the distant chirp of birds. Then the floorboard creaked under my heel. The same one that always gave me away growing up. Dad turned his head. "Carol," he called, "is that the delivery?" I stepped into view. "No, Dad, it's me." He turned slowly, blinking. His eyes widened. His hand flew to his mouth. For a moment he said nothing, just stared. Then quietly, "Kelly, my beautiful girl." I walked forward the lace, skimming the old hardwood floor. "I wanted you to see me, Dad, before October. Before it's too late." His voice broke. "You look just like your mother." On our wedding day, she'd be so proud. I knelt beside him, took his hand in mine. His fingers were thinner now, skin papery, but his grip still held the strength I remembered from childhood. "Is it okay," I asked, "that I brought this moment to you?" He nodded. "You brought the aisle to me, sweetheart. That's more than okay." Then after a pause, his eyes lit with something unexpected mischief. "I want to dance with my daughter," he said. "If this is my only shot, I'm taking it, Dad." I started to protest, but Carol was already there. Slipping a CD into an old stereo, Melissa set her camera quietly. James peeked through the door, frozen. Then the music started, Unforgettable by Nat King Cole. Our song. The one we used to twirl to in the kitchen when I was 5. Dad stood slowly using his cane. Carol supported him on one side. I rushed to his other. Together we swayed, barely moving, just shifting weight. His breathing heavy, but his smile so bright. And when the music reached its end, he gave me one last wink. Ready for the dip, we laughed through our tears. It was more of a lean than a dip, but we did it. Our last dance, our aisle, our goodbye. And I knew this moment right here was the point of no return. There would be no walking back from this memory. But I wouldn't want to. That night after our dance, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my childhood bed staring at the ceiling, the echoes of Nat King Cole still playing in my head. Unforgettable. That's what you are. I kept replaying the moment. Dad stood, the tremble in his knees, the breath in his chest, the grip of his hand. Every second burned into me like a photograph I could never unsee. But I also knew something else. That dance wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something I needed to finish. I wasn't going to let Dad just fade from the world. I was going to carry his legacy forward, not in a eulogy but in action, so I made a plan. Step 1. Honor his presence at the wedding in every way I could. Michael and I stayed up late that weekend, sketching ideas on notepads and napkins, an empty chair in the front row with his fire helmet and a single white rose, a candle burning during the father-daughter dance, photos of our moment in the dress projected during the reception. I called the firehouse next. Chief Rivera answered with that deep, gravelly voice I'd grown up hearing. When I told him what we wanted, he didn't hesitate. "We'll form an honor guard," he said. "Let us walk you down the aisle. All of us." It made me cry. Not the ugly kind of cry, but the full heart kind. The kind that says, you are not alone. Step 2. Finish the story we started. Melissa. Our photographer offered to create something beautiful from the photos she took that day. She designed a slideshow for the wedding reception, our quiet dance, our laughter, his cane tapping gently to the rhythm. Every photo would be printed and placed into an album Dad asked for. One by my bed, he had said, to remind me what I'm holding on for. I made copies. For Carol, for Chief Rivera, for Michael. And one quietly slipped into a drawer at the station just labeled Captain Step 3. Preserve his words. A few days after our dance, Dad gave me a sealed envelope. "Open it on your wedding day," he said. "It's not a will. Not instructions, just a letter. My father of the bride speech written the only way I know how. Longhand, heartfelt, probably too sentimental. I kept it close. Wrapped in silk, placed inside the locket I would wear around my neck. Then one afternoon while I was organizing wedding things in his room, I found another envelope, hidden labeled simply after I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a full outline of everything he wanted for the ceremony. Music, beer for the firefighter toast, even a joke he wanted someone to tell at the reception. "Don't let the chicken dance happen," he wrote in bold. "Unless the entire crew agrees to perform it in full gear. Otherwise, veto it." I laughed so hard I cried. Step 4. Prepare for what comes after. Because as strong as I felt carrying out his wishes, I knew the hardest part was still ahead. He was slipping fast. Some days he still joked and teased. Other days he barely opened his eyes. But we had our moment. And now my job was to protect it, to preserve it, to carry it into October like a torch through the dark. So I recorded my vows. Just in case, I made a backup of the video from our wedding dress day, printed the photos, backed them up in cloud drives and hard copies, created a memory box with Dad's wedding band, the pearl earrings, the pressed flower he'd picked from the garden and handed me after the dance, saying, "For your bouquet if it fits." I reached out to the hospice nurse, Diane. I asked her if he might be well enough to see the final edit of our dance before. She smiled gently. "He already watches it every night. Carol plays it for him. It's his lullaby now." The final part of the plan wasn't in writing. It was just a quiet promise to myself that I would let love in, that I would grieve fully, and then live fully for both of us. Because Dad had asked for one thing above all else. Don't let grief overshadow your wedding day. Don't let my absence swallow the joy. So I would wear the dress again. I would walk the aisle with firemen flanking me, with his ring on Michael's hand, with his letter next to my heart. And I would dance to our song in front of everyone, because we already had our moment, our final dance. And now it was time to carry that love forward step by step until the very end. The morning of October 15th arrived draped in soft clouds and golden light. I woke before dawn, not to nerves, not to panic, but to stillness. Dad's words echoed in my chest. "Hold your head high like I taught you. Know that I'm walking beside you, probably stepping on your dress train." It was our wedding day. Michael met me with quiet eyes and a coffee in hand. "He's here," he said simply. "I can feel it," I nodded. So could I. At the venue, everything was in place. The fire helmet rested gently on the front row chair, polished, respected, untouched. A single white rose tucked inside. Next to it, the locket I would wear, the pearl earrings, and the envelope with his handwriting, the one I wouldn't open until just before I walked down the aisle. Backstage, my bridesmaids buzzed with last-minute details. But when the bustle settled, I found myself alone for a moment, and I opened the envelope inside 3 handwritten pages. No flourishes, no dramatic declarations, just Dad, "My dearest Kelly. If you're reading this, it means you're in your dress. You're about to walk down that aisle, and I'm doing everything I can not to cry from the other side. I won't lie, Ked, I wanted to be there. I dreamed about that moment since the first time you danced on my feet in the kitchen. But I also know this, we already had our moment. Our dance, and it was perfect. You've got a good man waiting for you. I saw it in his eyes that day when he helped carry your dress. He's the kind of man who steps up when it matters most. Just like you. So hold your head high, keep your shoulders back, and don't worry if your voice shakes. Your old man is standing right beside you, probably in flannel and steel toes, pretending to know how to tie a tie. I'm proud of you, I love you, and I'll be watching. Now go give him hell, Kelbell." I folded the letter, placed it inside the locket, and whispered to the empty room, "I'm ready." Then I walked out. The guests stood, cameras rose. Music began, but I couldn't hear any of it. All I saw was Chief Rivera waiting at the end of the aisle, his hands steady, his face, soft eyes misted. "I've got you," he whispered, offering his arm, and together we walked. Every step felt like carrying something bigger than just fabric and flowers. I was walking with a legacy, with a love that had carried me through hospital nights, broken hearts, missed recitals, and a final dance. I reached Michael. He looked at me like he was seeing everything at once, our past, our promises, our forever. And when he slipped the ring on my finger, I saw Dad's band on his hand. A perfect circle, worn, weathered, enduring. Just like him, the ceremony ended. And as planned, we lit a candle next to the empty chair. No words, just light. But it was at the reception that everything reached its peak. The room dimmed, Unforgettable began to play, and the screen lit up our photos. Dad in his recliner, me in my dress, our twirl, his smile, my tears. 1,000 people watched what was once just ours, and not a single soul looked away. The final image, Dad seated peacefully, hand on his heart, eyes on me. The caption below, "I'll always be watching." The crowd stood, some clapped, some cried. All of them felt it. Then Michael took my hand. "Dance with me," he said. "But it's supposed to be the father-daughter dance," I whispered. Michael just smiled. "He taught you the steps, I'll help carry them," and he did. We danced, not just for us, but for him. For everything he gave, everything he meant, and everything that would live on through this love. Later that night, I stepped outside. The sky was clear stars. Like 1,000 whispers overhead, I held the locket in my hand. "Did you see it?" I whispered. "Did you catch the dip?" A breeze stirred the trees, soft, warm, like a laugh. And I smiled because I knew the answer. 1 year later, on the first anniversary of our wedding, I stood once again in that little church garden. This time, I held flowers. This time, I came alone, but I didn't feel alone. Michael waited at the car with our son, John. Michael, born 7 weeks early, fierce, healthy, and with eyes just like my father's. I placed the bouquet at the foot of Dad's memorial stone next to the small bronze plaque the fire department had added. It read, "Captain John Thompson, courage in the fire, grace in the quiet, love in every moment." I whispered the same words I'd said that night after our wedding. "We did it, Dad, just like you saw it." And I swear the wind rustled through the trees just enough to feel like arms around my shoulders. Today I work as a pediatric palliative nurse, and when I sit with parents saying goodbye too soon, when I see the ache of what they'll miss in their eyes, I tell them about a firefighter who couldn't make it to his daughter's wedding but danced with her anyway. Because grief can take away presence, but it can never steal meaning. This story isn't just about loss, it's about choice. The choice to show up even when you're fading. The choice to love fully, even when the ending is written. And the choice to create a moment so powerful, so unforgettable, that it lives beyond the goodbye. Because memory is stronger than death and love. If you do it right, it becomes legacy. Would your dad have done the same? Share your story in the comments. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to EN Reddit Story for more unforgettable true moments every day.